to replace the barbed wire. Along the sector boundaries rose the Berlin Wall, carving the city in two. In West Berlin, morale was low. Confidence in Allied protection crumbled. Mayor Willy Brandt sent an angry letter to President Kennedy demanding action.
Die Idee war eben, nachdem auch in Washington nichts passierte, die ganze
The idea was, since there had been no reaction in Washington,
den Präsidenten darauf aufmerksam zu machen,
we had to make it
dass
clear
hier
to the president
psychologisch ein Einbruch
that there might
oder
be a
ein
breakdown in
Bruch
morale, a loss
ein
of trust,
Vertrauenseinbruch, und dass hier
something more than just a
etwas
protest had to be
notwendig ist, was
done.
man mehr als Protest machen müsste.
I think it's probably putting it mildly to say he was furious. Kennedy felt that he had shown that he was prepared to go to the brink of war, and maybe even over the brink of war to defend Berlin, and here he was being criticized for doing nothing by a, as somebody put it, a mere mayor.
But Kennedy realized that a gesture was needed, a sign that America still meant to defend West Berlin. He ordered a show of force. An American troop convoy was sent to Berlin up the Autobahn across East Germany. The plan was to test East German reaction and to reaffirm Allied access rights to Berlin. The Americans were stopped and counted. They waited and were let through. The troops arrived safely. America's Vice President, Lyndon Johnson, flew to the city as Kennedy's personal representative. He was accompanied by General Lucius Clay, hero of the Berlin airlift. Johnson brought a message from President Kennedy.
He wants you to know that the pledge he has given to the freedom of West Berlin and to the rights of Western access to Berlin is firm.
In the east, people risked death to flee through the last chinks in the barrier.
All of a sudden, I saw my friend running, and I said to myself, oh my God, you're not going to make it. And I couldn't run. I turned into a pillar of salt. And an elderly woman said to me, go girl, run too. You're still young, run. So I just started running. My friend had hurt her face, but I'd only ripped my sweater. Apart from that, I wasn't hurt. We were incredibly happy. We laughed and cried. We just made it.
Many more made an impulsive dive for freedom.
Und eines Tages kam nicht nach Hause.
One day he didn't return home. I was waiting and waiting. He didn't come during the night or the next day, and I thought, what has happened? And then my brother-in-law came. Don't you know, he said, he's in the West. My whole world collapsed. I had to collect his things from work. It was like collecting the belongings of a dead person.
Later, Heinz Carstens helped his wife to escape. Where the border ran down the middle of the street, windows overlooked the west. Helping people escape became a routine assignment for West Berlin's fire brigade.
Nachher so, das spielte sich so ein, dass Leute springen wollten und Türme.
It became the custom that people who wanted to escape, people who wanted to leave, would throw little pieces of paper out of the windows into Bernauer Strasse.
The
number of the building, the floor, the window. Second or third window was written on it, and the time, for example 10 o'clock, that they wanted to jump.
Here are perhaps the most dramatic scenes ever to come out of Berlin. Tossing belongings from the window of an apartment overlooking the western border and freedom, an escapee is prepared to jump to safety into a net held by police and firemen of West Berlin. A rescue episode that is even more extraordinary. An attempt is being made by sympathetic Germans to assure the escape of a brave woman. While communist police try to pull her back through the window, below there is freedom's grip, a blood-chilling sequence that the News of the Day camera follows to its dramatic conclusion. She's safe at last.
The East Germans blocked even this last loophole. People swam lakes and canals, clung under trains, hid in cars, climbed barriers under fire. Hundreds failed. Many died. Despite the human suffering, East Germany justified the wall as a bulwark of peace.
When the barbed wire was put up, the main argument was that peace had been saved. It wasn't a question of domestic difficulties. Ulbricht drew a veil of silence over the economic problems. They talked always of the anti-fascist barrier. That's how it was officially described, the protective bulwark.
They did it as a necessity. And I thought, what kind of system is it that can only exist by keeping them with force in their own bailiwick? And the wall was the actual symbol of a defeat, of inferiority.
Escapes went on. Killings went on. Telephone lines were cut. Now the two cities could no longer talk. At the few Allied crossing points, tension was high. In October, an American diplomat was stopped by East German guards as he was crossing to visit the theater in East Berlin. The Americans decided to make an issue of it and assert their right to free movement in Berlin. Lucius Clay